When people are given the chance, they inevitably will choose a free press.
Gives voice to the voiceless, exposes injustice.
I consider the media to be indispensable to democracy.
Over the weekend, President Biden said he's ready to take action if Congress is serious about solving the border issue.
If that bill were the law today, I'd shut down the border right now and fix it quickly. And Congress needs to get it done.
Starting another fucking war. So I just want to apologize very quickly. I was chatting during a clip that was playing, and we try to keep this show very PG-13. So I just want to apologize to anyone who was listening to my behind-the-scenes chatter. Deeply, deeply apologize for that, because it's PG-13 up around here. So thank you to you all for watching the Reid Out.
Of course, many of these same people use any and every excuse to push for war with Iran. You've got Senator John Cornyn, target Tehran. Lindsey Graham, hit Iran now, hit them hard. Tom Cotton, my statement following the Iran-backed attacks in Jordan that killed 3 U.S. service members and injured 25. The TLDR there is also war with Iran. Tim Scott, enough is enough. Biden administration's appeasement of Iran must end. Time for clear and decisive action. Chuck Grassley, will President Biden finally take decisive action against Iran? First of all, I think it's important to say a couple things about this. Like, obviously, this is psychotic. The idea that we should just jump into a full-scale war with Iran, is not something that the American people want. It is disastrous, absolutely insane idea that goes almost without saying. It's always, we have to escalate, we have to hit them harder, we have to escalate to de-escalate, et cetera, et cetera. It's what the media pushes, it's what the political class pushes, and it always only goes in one direction.
The logic is also nonsensical. I mean, we are currently funding to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars the war in Ukraine, which has killed probably between 300,000 to 350,000 Russian soldiers. So by this logic, let's say that Russia were to use this logic, what could they say? They're like, well, the US-backed, US-linked Ukrainian government is killing our soldiers with their weapons. Actually, the link is probably even more direct because the Pentagon quite literally runs the Ukrainian military ops. And in a similar situation, we can't control everything the Ukrainian military does. Or maybe we can. But let's say that we can't, at least in that instance, as we have seen them conduct attacks deep inside of Russian territory, elsewhere, terrorist attacks, assassinations inside of Moscow. What does that mean? Under that logic, they could bomb us.
These troops were conducting a vital mission in the region aimed at helping us work with partners to counter ISIS. And even as the Defense Department gathers more information about the attack, that mission must and will continue. Third, the counter-ISIS mission is separate and distinct. Indeed, it has been long-standing and unrelated to our efforts to support Israel and to prevent a wider conflict in the region. We do not seek another war. We do not seek to escalate. But we will absolutely do what is required to protect ourselves, to continue that mission, and to respond appropriately to these attacks. Now, I know the first set of questions I'm going to get are, well, what does that look like? What's appropriate? And what response options is the president considering? I hope you can understand why I'm not going to telegraph any punches here from the podium, nor will I get in front of the president or his decision-making. He's met twice with his national security team yesterday and today. He's weighing the options before him. As he said yesterday, we will respond. We'll do that on our schedule, in our time, and we'll do it in the manner of the president's choosing as Commander-in-Chief.
It's about who we are. It's about what we think about it, how the world looks at us. I've been doing foreign policy for a long, long time. I was chairman of those committees and the like. That's why Barack asked me to get his ticket. And I know every one of those heads of state. I've known them for a while. And every meeting I go to internationally, I just walk out and just God too, I can sit in front of the press. Virtually every one of them pull me aside and say, you've got to win. You can't let that happen again. You can't let that happen again. And one last thing, I want to point out that we had a tough day last night in the Middle East. We lost 3 brave souls in an attack on one of our bases. Yeah. And, I've asked for a moment of silence for all 3 of those false soldiers.
John, do you expect the president would go to Dover for the dignified transfer when these Americans are returned to the United States?
I don't have anything on his schedule to speak to.
At what point does the president then cut off the money to Iran by stopping or reducing their benefit from oil sales?
I just don't have anything to share on that particular thing.
And I will not tolerate attack on U.S. forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S. and our troops. Now, at this important time, I'm glad to be back at the Pentagon. I feel good and am recovering well, but still recovering. And I appreciate all the good wishes that I've received thus far. And welcome back, Ms. Secretary General.
Thank you.
It's great to see you. It's a pleasure to get to host you here today.
Has the president called already, or does he plan to speak with the families of the fallen service members?
Don't have any calls to read out.
Speaking to it, will we hear directly from the president? Will he speak to the American people about this attack and his response when it happens?
Well, he mentioned it yesterday in South Carolina. I don't have anything on his schedule to speak to.
I would argue that we've not seen a situation as dangerous as the one we're facing now across the region since at least 1973.
Is this attack that has killed 3 service members an act of war by Iran?
Well, look, I think I said this earlier. We don't seek a war with Iran. We don't seek to widen this conflict. We have said, and we will continue to call out, the fact that Iran does fund and equip these groups and provide them the capabilities that they use to attack our service members, whether it be Iraq, Syria, or Jordan. So we're not going to hesitate in calling that out. But we certainly don't seek a war. And frankly, we don't see Iran wanting to seek a war with the United States. We are there in Iraq and in Syria. And I think your original question was, what were these service members doing there? They are there in support of the Defeat ISIS mission. That is their purpose there. They are part of a named operation that this department has and is committed to in both in Iraq and Syria.
Right. We know they want the deep state plan all along since John McCain, bomb Iran. This is their second wet dream after destroying Russia. And they know that maybe the time is up, maybe November is their last chance. And it looks like they are actually walking us towards this, which is like so terrifying. And like, who is going to stop this? And I just want to make one more point. This poor young woman, like any country that requires its young women to put on uniforms and go fight abroad in these godforsaken hellholes is not a country that I can even defend, that I can even support. We cannot have young women doing this. I don't want young men there either, believe me. But I mean, the Air Force now has designed pregnant flight suits, maternity flight suits for pregnant Air Force women to go on planes. Like, what are we doing? These women, I'm sorry, they don't need to go into the kitchen, but we have to get them out of combat zones.
It's clear, obviously, that didn't work. Does the president have any regret over not punching back harder in any of the prior responses that he's taken to these proxy attacks on U.S. forces?
I think I would push back on the idea that we didn't push back harder. That we have taken significant action against Iran economically. We have certainly taken some additional and more aggressive steps to go after these groups. We're certainly taking aggressive action against the Houthis to try to defend shipping in the Red Sea. I mean, this idea that somehow we've just whistled past the graveyard here and walked away from the challenge that Iran poses just isn't borne out by the fact.
We should be reimposing sanctions on the oil and gas sector, on their ballistic missile sector. Let me give you one statistic. End of the Trump administration, Iran had about $4 billion in foreign reserves. That's not a lot, okay? Biden comes in, lifts sanctions. They're exporting oil like crazy, natural gas like crazy. Their foreign reserves right now are north of $70 billion. The Iranians, that's what they're funding these terrorist proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis with. That's what you need to do for a comprehensive, strategic, long-term policy of reestablishing deterrence. Is not easy. The Trump administration did it. Biden's been weak. They got to redo this.
What is the president's response to Republican critics who are of the mind that this attack was the result of perceived weakness? For instance, the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee said that President Biden's fear of escalation has morphed into a doctrine of appeasement.
They can speak for themselves. That's obviously not the way we see this.
What would you be doing right about now in terms of what's happening in the Middle East? Would we be going to war? I mean,
No, the goal is always to prevent war. What makes me angry is my husband's serving overseas. Military families want to know their loved ones are protected. Biden didn't protect them. And there have been 160 strikes. There shouldn't have been one. There shouldn't have been two. And you've got 160 and you've got dozens injured. We lost 3 heroes because Biden was scared of his own shadow. That's a truth.
But what would that mean in practice? When you say Biden didn't do something, what was that something that he should have been doing?
The very first strike that hit, you punch and you punch back hard. What they should be doing is going after every ounce of production of those missiles. Wherever those missiles are, you take that out. You keep doing. You take out the training sites. You go and you.
But does that risk escalating a war?
Does that mean striking Iran directly?
It means striking the resources that are allowing them to hurt our troops. That's what you're doing. It's not going after
But they're backed by Iran. Iran says that they're not declaring the shots, but Iran's training them. They're providing intelligence. They're providing weapons.
And this goes
there
back.
would be no Hamas without Iran, Hezbollah without Iran, or Houthis without Iran.
But
yes, you're going.
Iran is a really big escalation. And
you go after wherever those missiles are, the production, wherever it is in Iraq and Syria, you take that out. Wherever it is in Lebanon that they're doing that, you take that out. You go after the leaders making the decisions. It's not after Iran, the country. It's after the people who are making these decisions. When Soleimani was assassinated, it sent a chill up their spine. They literally, it took their breath out. You have to be strategic. It's not starting war. It's actually preventing war.
But do you think we can accomplish that without escalating to the point of war? I mean, there are some people who look at your candidacy and say, she's very hawkish. She's very hawkish, and she could bring us to a war.
And why would I do that when my husband would be fighting in one? That's what you don't want. You actually prevent war. It's not being hawkish. What it is it's being smart.
Only way we will get that done. None of us want new wars. None of us want new wars.
We have wars breaking out all over. Today, they announced Joe Biden may be announcing taking action tonight against Iran. Oh, great, Joe Biden's going to be at the helm. You wouldn't get in an Uber if it was driven by Joe Biden. Unless you're suicidal. I have to disclaim that because if I don't, the fake news will tell you that I lied because someone who has a death wish would probably get in that Uber. No, would you let Joe Biden drive you in a car? No, you wouldn't even think about it. You wouldn't even think about it. You certainly wouldn't let your kids get in the car. But he's going to be the guy calling the shots? But he's not, because we saw what happened 2 weeks ago, right? Lloyd Austin, our Secretary of Defense, goes MIA, but he's under the knife in surgery or whatever he was doing. Did you notify the White House? Nah. Those idiots?
Kujichagulia.